It's widely known that China's growing demand for energy has made it increasingly dependent on the oil and gas-rich states of West Asia. But what's less well understood is that energy producers in West Asia, specifically those in the Middle East and Central Asia, also face dilemmas and difficult choices when it comes to China, even as they seize the enormous opportunities presented by rapidly growing Chinese energy demand.
My name is Anthony Bubalo. I'm the Director of the West Asia Program here at the Lowy Institute. Together with my research collaborator Conrad Muller, I'm working on a new project that looks at China from its Western approaches.
Our study will compare the strategies of three key states to China: Saudi Arabia, Kazakhstan and Iran.
What interests us in particular is the way that a range of factors, including geography, demography, history, domestic politics and geopolitical rivalry, complicate what might otherwise seem to be a very simple transaction between energy producers and the world's fastest growing energy consumer.
The project will produce a series of monographs, with the first two on Saudi relations with China and Kazakh relations with China to be published in 2012.
In the meantime, I wanted to preview some of the issues that we're focusing on by taking a quick look at a research visit we made to Kazakhstan in October 2011.
We began our visit in Almaty, the pretty cosmopolitan former capital of the Kazakh state, nestled in the foothills of the Tian Shan Mountains. We spoke with academics, business people, officials and journalists. We learned very quickly that Kazakhs are, at the very least, ambivalent about their eastern neighbours.
Well, China is a very dynamic economy and its gravity force is felt everywhere in the world. China is a source of very big opportunities as a trade partner, as a provider of investments, but also it is a source of considerable challenges.
In part, Kazakh ambivalence about China is rooted in history. From the days when the great Kazakh leader Ablai Khan played off China against Russia, to the days when Kazakhstan, as a part of the Soviet Union, found itself on the front lines of the Sino-Soviet split. Russia's shadow still looms large over Kazakhstan, but many Kazakhs also have warm feelings for Russia.
Speaking about the elder generation, because we grew up with the Soviet and wrote proudly that our motherland was one of the superpowers in the world.
This ice rink on the outskirts of Almaty, where Soviet Winter Olympians used to train, is a tangible reminder of the connections between the two countries. Russia still sees Kazakhstan as part of its near abroad, and Kazakhs for the most part seem willing to be seen that way, which in turn impacts on relations with China.
President Nazarbayev constantly initiated the idea of close economic cooperation within the Eurasian economic cooperation structure, and that's why now Kazakhstan, together with Belarus and Russia, signed up custom union.
Kazakhs are also acutely aware that theirs is a small population, very small when compared to their eastern neighbour. But Kazakhstan is not a small country geographically, and some Kazakhs fear that China covets its wide open spaces. Kazakh concerns about China also reflect less tangible factors.
At the time of the Sino-Soviet split, when there was an iron curtain with China, there was the sense in Kazakhstan that there, behind the mountains, there was an unknown country. And as I always say, what you do not know, you always fear.
Energy is central to Kazakhstan's relations with China today. Kazakh production of oil in particular could double in the next decade. Meanwhile, its neighbour is the world's fastest growing energy consumer. Kazakh oil exports to China are increasing, yet Kazakhs still send most of their oil west via the CPC pipeline with Russia rather than east to China. Kazakhs fear growing levels of Chinese investment in their energy sector. There is also concern that they will end up as nothing more than an exporter of raw materials for China to refine and transform into more valuable end products. Official Kazakh policy is to pursue diverse markets. The question is, however, how long can Kazakhstan resist the pull of such a massive energy customer on its doorstep? The merchandise trade is also another important part of the Kazakh relationship with China.
China is consistently in the top 3 trade partners of Kazakhstan. Many people, many families do living thanks to this trade with China. Kind of the small traders that go across the border, they buy manufactured goods, bring them here and sell them. And that benefits the consumers because consumers can buy cheaper Chinese goods. On the other hand, there are challenges because local industries cannot compete with China. Chinese goods are cheap and they're very diverse. So that was probably one of the reasons why Kazakhstan decided to form customs union with Russia and Belarus 2 years ago. And customs union has been effective for a year already. And actually the share of trade with China has decreased a little bit, but I think they will regain positions.
A third key area of cooperation between Kazakhstan and China is in the security field. Kazakhstan and China hold regular military exercises in the framework of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the regional organization that brings together Russia, China, Kazakhstan, and a number of other Central Asian states. Some Western observers have dubbed it the Asian NATO. In truth, it seems far from it, not least because in Central Asia it faces competition from other regional economic and security organizations that still tie Russia and the former Soviet republics like Kazakhstan closely together.
During Shanghai Cooperation Organization military exercises, we see how smooth relations between member countries of the Collective Security Agreement are. That is, between Kazakhstan, Russia, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan when it sends representatives of its own armed forces. Why is that so? Because they share a language, many weapons, strategy and tactics, which are, as a rule, jointly developed. But during these exercises, we see that Chinese armed forces always stand by themselves. But even at the level of exercises, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization is not a military organization or an organization which has real military potential.
We ended our time in Kazakhstan by travelling overland from Almaty to Urumqi, the capital of China's westernmost province, Xinjiang. The first leg of our journey took us from Almaty to Zarkent. The road was a little variable, although this didn't seem to bother our audacious driver. The road is due to be upgraded as a part of grand plans for a West China to West Europe highway. After a night in Zarkent and with a wave from a friendly local, we set out on the short trip to the border at Korgos, picking up some stragglers along the way. As we approached Korgos, the long line of trucks reminded us that we had chosen a bad day to cross, on the first day after an 8-day Chinese holiday when the border had been closed. Although we had also been told in Almaty that even in normal times the cross-border commercial traffic moved very slowly. Waiting at Korgos to board a bus, we pondered how long it might take to make the crossing. Emerging on the Chinese side, the first thing we noticed was a shopping mall and the quality of the road. Following a night in Yining, we set out for Urumqi. The first leg of the journey took us through the Tian Shan Mountains. Looking at the impressive road and bridge works, the West China to West Europe highway suddenly seemed to make sense. As we descended upon the Zungarian plain, we reflected on how Kazakhs must feel when they see all this infrastructure development, as some do when they travel to China for trade or to see relatives. It can't be easy living next door to such a hyperactive economic power.